everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode of CUNY Uncut, where we talk about anything and everything, uncensored, unedited, and uncut. Wow, to think that that will be the last time that I will be saying those words brings in a ton of emotions, but mostly I am filled with extreme gratitude and excitement for this show. I want to thank Hannah Kavanaugh, the season 1 producer and host of the show and CUNY Uncut creator, for trusting me to take over her brainchild, her baby, and truly everybody at CUNY TV who has trusted me along this journey and who's motivated me along this journey. I am so thrilled to have met every single one of you. I also want to thank everybody who was a guest on this show. I've been able to meet so many fantastic CUNY students and alumni and to hear their remarkable stories and to share it with all of you. With that being said, I am extremely excited to be able to have this opportunity to continue the CUNY student host legacy and introduce the season 3 host of CUNY Uncut. He is a Hunter College student, a double major in media studies and statistics, and you may find his voice familiar as he is the sports broadcaster for all things Hunter Hawk athletics. With that being said, I want to give a very warm welcome to season 3 CUNY Uncut host, David Horn.
Hi,
David.
Isabel. Hi. Oh my God, you're going to bring a tear to my eye. That was beautiful.
Thank you. But I am super excited that you're here and that you will be able to experience this opportunity because it was so invaluable to me and has taught me so many things, and I can't wait to see what you do with the show.
I am super stoked. I feel so bad that we're going to have to switch seats, but I'm super excited to it, and I can't wait to get started.
Alrighty, well, you mentioned it. I think it's time for us to switch seats.
Let's do it.
Alrighty.
Isabel, it has been a sensational year from you. How is hosting for you? A whole year of CUNY Uncut. Tell me about it.
It's felt like literally a second. I feel like I think like the nervous feelings that I had when I started, I felt like I was like, oh my God, how am I going to find all these guests? How am I going to put all this together? But looking on this past year, I think I've been through so much change that it's on it, but still it's only feel like a second.
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird to like look back on this year.
Yeah, I feel a little jittery as well after here. It's going to be an overwhelming year, but I kind of wanted to ask how you feel being on the other side of the table. I mean,
it's funny because like when I did this with Hannah, when the thing I remember her saying is like to get a different view of things. To think that this is what the guests were looking at for this whole year is like so weird, but it feels nice. I think it's time, and I'm super excited for you to be taking over. Yeah.
Season 3 of a student legacy show. You mentioned Hannah before. Kind of talk about the process of moving on from all the amazing things that Hannah did.
So yeah, I think when Hannah started the show, it was very student-centric, and I think that was the thing with CUNY Uncut that is most important. I think CUNY is so big that you want to be able to hear from all the voices, and I think that's what I strive to do, or I really tried to do with CUNY Uncut this season, was to get students and alumni that maybe their voices haven't been heard or their stories maybe go overlooked. So I think I've tried to do that.
Do you think that going in that direction was more difficult given the background that Hannah had?
I think for me, maybe, because when I started at Hunter, I was a transfer student. And I think if you transfer from anywhere, it's a learning curve, it's a learning process. So I think that when I first landed in CUNY, of course, like living in New York, growing up in Brooklyn, you hear about CUNY all the time. You hear about Hunter, you hear about BMCC. But I think for me, it was really finding my footing. So like when I had gotten the opportunity to host CUNY Uncut, I was like a year and a half into my time at Hunter. But if I was never given the opportunity to do this show, I probably would have never really searched really within CUNY to find like cool and interesting things. And it really like opened my eyes to like all the things CUNY has to offer, like fraternities and sororities.
Did you feel like you were trying to represent certain voices when you came in, or you were just kind of looking for whatever's out there?
Well, I know, like, for me, being Latina, something I really wanted to talk about on the show was the Latina experience, and I think I was able to do that with some of my guests, but I also wanted to learn from a background that wasn't my own. I think I wanted to explore different cultures, and I hope I was able to do that with the guests that I brought on, and I wanted to explore stories that weren't my own, because I already know my own story, and I came into CUNY Uncut knowing that I wanted to take from it as much as I could, and I wanted to learn as much as I could.
Mm-hmm.
So I think exploring stories like the gentleman who was formerly incarcerated, or the gentleman who was a survivor of human trafficking, that was something that I was not really ever exposed to, but being able to hear those stories was so refreshing. And I think having CUNY Uncut to explore that platform and like in a comfortable space too was really nice.
And CUNY is also such a big system. I feel already a little bit overwhelmed that I'm not going to be able to highlight everybody that deserves to be highlighted, because there's so many stories that truly need to be told, but there's obviously such a limited amount of time. Did you feel like there were certain people or guests that you really wanted to highlight or talk about, but you just didn't get the chance to?
Of course, yeah. Like there's a million how many CUNY alumni that of course I would have loved to speak to them, and I would have loved to hear about their stories. There's a million CUNY students that I think too like fly under the radar, that you don't hear about their story, or nobody really knows about their story. So I think there's probably a lot of topics that I wish I was able to discuss. I think cannabis was a really big one that I wanted to talk about. Party culture at CUNY was something I wanted to talk about.
I'm sensing a theme here. What's
No. Well, because I'm not even a big party myself. So I think maybe that's why I wanted to discuss those things, because those things are kind of foreign to me.
Right.
But I think I was able to cover a lot of the things I wanted to.
Mm-hmm. Cover a lot of bases.
Yes.
Do you see yourself kind of implementing the things that you weren't able to cover during your time at CUNY Uncut into other works that you might do?
Of course, yeah. And I think too, like with the work I want to do, I think it's always going to be something that I'm constantly discovering new things that I want to talk about. I think as I change as a person, the things I want to talk about are also going to change.
And you also adapt as a host too. I mean, I assure you that you are probably not the same person that you were a year ago when you started. But yeah, I mean, you said that you wanted to kind of learn from your guests. What was hosting like as a learning experience?
Yeah, you mentioned it. When I look at myself from a year ago, I laugh. Like, you can even ask some of my family. It's weird because I think for a long time I was really shy, and I think being pushed out of my comfort zone when I started at CUNY TV was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because especially hosting, you can't be shy, you can't be nervous. I mean, of course you're gonna be nervous. Of course.
Who's gonna tell him?
Of course you're gonna be nervous. But I think that for me, it was all about continuously pushing myself out of my comfort zone. And especially, I think that was something that I was able to like even learn from my guests, because some of the topics I did discuss aren't easy things to talk about. People's stories are not easy to talk about. So I think that the back and forth was something I was able to like hugely learn from.
And in each episode, it seemed like what you were trying to get out of it as a host was you wanted to learn something from your guests. You wanted to be like, okay, teach me about whatever needs to be, I need to learn about. So were any of those things that you learned kind of came as surprises?
Well, like, do you mean surprises?
Like surprising in the information that you were told, or like the exact way that the story panned out, or just anything really?
Oh, yeah, of course. I think that there was a lot of things that I came by that were surprising to me. I think one of the biggest things that was a surprise was people's experiences with the CUNY system. I think hearing that there's good, there's bads, there's ugly, and there's like extraordinary stories were something really refreshing. And I think too, like with CUNY Uncut, it's uncensored, unedited, and uncut. I think we give, I know I hope to give, I know Hannah hoped to give as well, like this not cookie cutter CUNY experience. So I think that was really nice to learn, but also surprising to hear about some of these people's experiences, maybe with professors or maybe receiving help. Another thing that was really inspiring or a surprise for me, I think, was how I looked at my own CUNY experience from a lot of the guests that I spoke to, and made me rethink or maybe dig a little deeper into who I was as a CUNY student and now as a CUNY grad.
Well, now you get to reflect back on your time as a CUNY student. Kind of what did some of those experiences and things that you heard make you realize about your own experience at Hunter? Kind of like you saw it like, whoa, that's a little different from what I originally thought it was.
Yeah, I think the community that comes from being at a CUNY, I think because CUNY is so big, you may feel like a little bit lost when you get there. But I know I did, like, transferring in, but I know that it was really nice to see on social media, especially the community that comes from CUNY, and to see, like, people talk about the elevators at Hunter, people talk about some of the professors or rate my professor, things like that. But yeah.
It can be very overwhelming as a system because there's so many schools, because there's so many stories that really need to be told. But being able to be on a certain campus and find your sense of community, I know for me, it's been my radio station. They've been my rock. They've been my role. I've been with them since my freshman year, and I've enjoyed every second of it. And just getting to see new faces every day, especially with our radio station, people can just come in and sit down and talk and get to say whatever they'd like to, just kind of introduce themselves, see what they're interested in, what's your major, where are you from, all those sorts of interesting things.
Yeah.
And I think being able to do that is fantastic, especially when everybody's so different.
Yeah, you hit like the nail on the head with that. Like, I feel like during my time at CUNY, I was talking to a new person almost every day because, like, you bump into people in the hallway or you don't even realize that you share a class with people till like halfway through the semester. But yeah, when I look back at my time at CUNY, it's really nice because I was really nervous. But looking back at how it changed me and like how I look at my own city too, like how diverse it is, it's really nice.
I think that it's great to be part of those communities, but sometimes it's hard to really get into those clubs, those, organizations, whatever it is, because they're not always, right in front of you. I feel like the other side of CUNY is it's very easy to kind of hide in the shadows and kind of just go about your business, go to your classes, and go right home.
Yeah, I think that too, a big thing I took away from my interaction with guests, the resources that CUNY provide, like talking with Rosalie Ramirez about her experience as a mother and all the resources that she was able to get from Lehman College, from daycare, from just like overall like care for her child was really nice. Hearing from Cristiano and Eduardo about the mental health resources was incredible, and I think was really special for audience members to hear.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And you also have to remember, the CUNY system is built on commuters, people who are doing other things in their respective communities outside of CUNY. So they're going home to their families, to their jobs, their businesses, whatever it is. And then they're also going to their classes on top of that. Yeah. And I feel like people aren't really doing that at other schools, at maybe even a SUNY, or a little bit more isolated. We're in New York City. You have to remember that.
Yeah, I think too, look at us. We're like the both sides of the coin for CUNY, really. I'm from Brooklyn. I was a commuter student taking the D and the 6 train every morning to school. And I know you have your own experience with CUNY. Yeah, I think you see every walk of life at CUNY and what they're experiencing.
And I think it's easy to be in your comfort zone, as we mentioned before, but especially now, you've hosted the show for a year, you've reached out of your comfort zone, and you like being in your comfort zone. It's warm and fuzzy for a reason. But I mean, for me, I'm trying to find that happy medium as I go into hosting for the next year, finding topics that I find interesting or I think that other students will find interesting, but also kind of representing the voices that need to be heard. The voices that are on the outside of the dotted line are often more important than the ones that are inside. So I think that reaching out of your comfort zone is very, very important. And I mean, speak about it over the last year.
Yeah, I think you gotta find the outliers, because there's people who want to have their voices heard, but they don't know what platform they can use or where to find it.
And sometimes it finds you like it did for Hannah. I mean, CUNY reached out to her about hosting this show, and it ended up being a possibility. And now season 2 and season 3 hosts are sitting right across from each other, having a wonderful conversation. Look at that.
Yeah, to think without Hannah.
Without Hannah, we wouldn't be here. We're cheating. Yeah. But I also kind of want to ask about your comfort zone on the show. Originally, you said that you never really wanted to be on camera, but now look at you. A year worth of experience on camera.
I know, yeah. When I started as an intern at CUNY TV, I think I thought it was going to be like how you hear a lot of other people's internship experience go. Like, I thought I was going to get coffee, that I was going to make copies. But that was not my experience. And thankfully to, like, my fantastic mentor, Carol Ann Riddell, who is a producer here at CUNY TV, I was able to really... She pushed me out of my comfort zone, and it was the best thing that ever could have happened to me because I am comfortable I would think I'm comfortable on camera now. I'm more comfortable on camera because before, like, without this internship that I had here, like, I hated taking pictures, David. I hated being in front of the camera, and I always thought, too, like, when I was younger, I wanted to work behind the camera. Mm-hmm. But I think doing this show taught me skills for both. Working behind the camera, editing, and working in front of the camera as an on-camera personality. So,
yeah, I'm excited to do a little bit of both. Well, talk to me a little bit about how you first got started at CUNY TV. You didn't just jump into the host position. You were originally an intern. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about kind of getting the internship and getting your foot in the door?
Yeah, so I think I had applied to maybe 100+ internships, and a lot of people experience this. It's the... come back to us when you have more experience, or you have no experience, but then it's like, how am I supposed to get the experience if you won't help me?
Give it to me. Exactly.
So that was something that I was struggling with when I was looking for an internship, and I had just transferred, and I was like, if I'm gonna be in the city, I want to make the most of it. So I was looking for internships, and I had stumbled upon CUNY TV, mm-hmm. Because I was signed up for David Pavlovsky's internship.
The FN listserv, I'm very familiar.
Exactly. I think every media student in Hunter is on that listserv.
Oh, yeah.
But I stumbled upon it that way. I applied, and I was like, this is the last internship I'm going to apply to for this year. We're going to see how it goes. And I guess, like fate, I got it. And I remember coming in on the first day, and I was really nervous. But I was really excited because this was like my chance at working in a career I've always wanted.
Right.
So that was really nice. But like I said, was really nervous to be on camera, and I didn't even think that was going to be an option for me. And then I was able to get my first producer's credit working on a story for Arts in the City on a store and a brand called Bronx Native. And it really all started from there.
Wonderful. Yeah. Similar to you, I did not just jump into the host role. I have been at CUNY TV before a long time ago, a year ago. Mm-hmm. I was here over a summer working on Nueva York, and I had an amazing experience. And when I left on the final day, I kind of knew that this wasn't the last that they were going to see of me. Like, exactly. I was excited to get back because the people here are so wonderful, and it's just such an amazing experience. But for a lot of other college students, they don't have the privilege of being here. Mm-hmm. And, finding those internships can be very hard. And it's just new challenge after new challenge. Mm-hmm. But speaking of challenges, you're not unfamiliar with them. I know that you've done a lot of moving in your life. You moved within Brooklyn when you were, in high school. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I moved a couple blocks, but it felt like a big life change for me.
It's Brooklyn, yeah.
Yeah, it's Brooklyn. I moved from Sunset Park, Brooklyn, very loud neighborhood, but I love Sunset Park. My heart is in Sunset Park, yes. But yeah, I moved from Sunset Park, Brooklyn, and then I moved to Dyker Heights, which is like very different worlds. And I think that with that, because I was in high school, so it was also a big change. It was a lot of change for me in a short amount of time. But now, even though I love Sunset, I do love Dyker Heights. It's really nice.
You've grown into it a little bit.
Yep.
But it also goes to show you that in a place like New York City, you can go a few blocks and then your whole world changes.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's just how it goes.
Yeah,
That's how it is.
I didn't have my bodega on the corner anymore. I had to find a new shop to go to.
Yeah.
You don't have your places anymore that you learn about. Yeah.
Well, speaking of not having your bodega, let's talk about your first college in New Paltz, because there is nothing over there.
There is not a bodega in sight for miles. Let me tell you.
Yeah, so talk to me about kind of starting over at New Paltz in 2020, right? And then in the beginning of COVID, trying to figure out your way over there, but then why you really came back to New York City.
Okay, yeah. So it was a journey, to say the least. Well, because I graduated at the height of COVID, didn't have a graduation. It was all at home. But yeah, so I did my whole first year of college was asynchronous classes. So
Which can't be fun.
honestly, I think at the time I really enjoyed being home. And I think maybe I wasn't ready for that push out of the nest yet. So it was like kind of my comfort, like we talked about, the warm and fuzzy comfort zone. But yeah, so I stayed home for a year. I started working a part-time job during COVID, which was fun, and it was retail, which is even funner. So yeah, I was doing that for a year. And then once that year was up, I actually started to dorm at New Paltz. And I got to New Paltz, and don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed it. The campus was beautiful, but I just think it wasn't the place for me anymore. I think that within that year of COVID, I had changed greatly. And I remember sitting in New Paltz, and honestly, I was pretty upset. And one of my professors has walked by me. He was like, "Why are you upset?" And I was like, "I miss home. And I don't know what to do." And he was like, "Well, what do you want to do? Like, what do you want your career to be?" And I was like, "I want to work in media." And he was like, "What are you doing here?" I remember those words like yesterday. He said, and this was a psychology professor. I was like taking a regular elective.
Okay.
And he was like, "So what are you doing here?" He was like, "You live in Brooklyn?" And I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Go home." He was like, "You'll save money and like you'll get that hands-on experience of being in New York. Like you can find a PA job," which I did. And yeah, I realized that maybe I didn't want to run away from home, but home was where I was supposed to be.
And home is where the heart is.
Home is where the heart
and
is,
it's
yeah.
where kind of your family is. I know that you and your mom and your grandma used to watch a lot of stuff together growing up. Can you talk a little bit about how their influence on you kind of shaped your career in media so far?
Yeah, I mean, my mom is the reason I am the way I am. My mom is the reason why I love all things movies and TVs, everything from like Adam Sandler movies to like reality TV. My mom's like love for TV. I don't even think she realizes it's her love for TV. I don't even think she realizes like how much it influenced me or inspired me. But yeah, like our Saturdays were like spent going to the movies. So I think that really brought on my love for film and television. So like even I don't know, how old was I? I think I was maybe like 10.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I want to make movies. Like
That's great.
I want to make movies and I want to work on TV. And I never wavered for that. Like even like during the college application process, when they put like major, I put like film or like whatever film
You just knew.
related thing
Right.
they had. That was what I wanted to do. And I never wavered for that. And I really appreciate that because I think for a lot of people when they come into college, it's a lot of unknowns about what you wanted to do. But I knew I always wanted to work in TV and film in some kind of aspect. And
Do you think that their influence on you kind of helped shape the type of guests that you tried to bring in?
oh, of course, yeah. I think hearing like my mom talk about stories from when she was growing up, I think hearing my grandma tell stories from when she was growing up, that really inspired the guests I wanted to bring on, or maybe like the stories I felt like they didn't get to share about themselves. I wanted to, maybe if it wasn't exactly the same kind of story, it was something that I wanted to talk about on here, especially like motherhood. I'm so close to my mom. I thought that was really special.
I love my mom too. I just want to preface that.
We all love our moms.
We all love our moms. Well, another highlight of your career thus far, you just recently graduated.
Yes.
Can you talk about kind of the post-grad life?
Yes, so post-grad life is fun and scary.
Yes.
So I think I made myself nervous beforehand, even before graduating, that when I did graduate, all my like nervous energy was gone. And I was like, okay, it is what it is. But yeah, I think anybody who's graduating from college is like, okay, I guess life starts now, or what is the next step?
Scary to think about.
Yeah, it's scary. It's very scary.
I'm only a junior. I don't even want to think about it right now. Like, I'm just not ready for that.
Yeah, but it at the time it feels scary, and then I remember walking out of the Barclays Center for graduation, and I was like, okay, I guess we start now. We have to figure it out now. And I think that's when it switched for me, and I was like, okay, we got to figure it out.
Right.
But yeah, it was definitely a learning curve, and I think I'm still in that learning curve, and especially like when the semester starts, it's already started. I'm gonna be like, okay, I think I have to look at my schedule planner. I think I have to look at everything. What class is next? But there's
You're not bounded by the schedule anymore, the academic schedule.
I know, no more degree works.
Oh my God. Don't get me started on degree works. But talk to me now about, I mean, you're returning back to CUNY TV, thankfully. You're not going too far. Talk to me about your new role.
Yeah, so like you said, I think when you think you're about to leave CUNY TV, there's always something there. So,
right.
Or you always feel the yearning to come back. So thankfully, my chapter at CUNY TV is not over. I will now be producing a segment for Book It called Breaking Books, where I will be interviewing authors and other book-related people, trying to highlight diverse authors, diverse stories, diverse voices, And I will also be a producer for the show Latinas, highlighting trailblazing Latinas in New York City and stories that really affect our community. And I'm really, really excited for it.
Lovely. That sounds like it's going to be an amazing opportunity right in your wheelhouse.
Yep.
And I mean, you've already started, no? So.
Yep. So, but yeah, it's been really, really exciting time for me. A lot of change, but really exciting time.
Change is good, though. Change is good. Change is exciting.
Change is exciting, yes.
Okay. So your kind of shtick throughout the year was asking everybody about your CUNY survival item.
Yes.
And I didn't want to be left out of that, so I'm going to answer for myself.
Okay.
For me, it is my notes app. Everything goes in there. It will be notes to myself. It'll be a to-do list. It'll be all my broadcasting needs. It'll be my radio show notes. It'll be everything for me. The other thing is a Tide to Go stick because I'm a little messy.
Oh my God, I love those.
They're amazing. They're like $3. You keep them in your bag. I have like 3 for each bag that I have. But
okay.
I wanted to, we obviously know that the coffee is your CUNY survival item, but I kind of wanted to ask, what is the death of you in CUNY? Like, what just causes you the most anguish? For me, it's like when the subway isn't running and I'm like going to be late to class, or it's like buying a $15 lunch every day because there's no options outside of Hunter or something like that.
Yes.
What would it be for you?
Let me think. Well, the $15 lunch is not fun. That's why I always try to pack my classes and then run home. But I think the death of me at CUNY, or let me just say at Hunter really, was the stairs.
Oh.
One, very steep. One, in the north building, the elevators
They're
never
there.
worked. And I think you'll hear that from a lot of Hunter students, like you just said.
Guilty.
The elevators are not reliable.
No. God,
But
no.
when they are working, it's literally such a joy.
Yes.
But yeah, for the could have been the death of me was the stairs. Literally walking up to like the 10th floor.
Oh, God, no. I remember doing that for a class one time, and I was already late, and I was just such a mess.
Yeah, that's the worst, too. When you already feel like you're late, you're out of breath, then you get there, and you have to, like, pretend you're not out of breath.
Exactly.
And you're like, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, Isabel. Well, this has been absolutely lovely, and I really wanted to thank you for providing me with this opportunity to take the Legacy Show into its next season. Season 3 is going to be so exciting. I can't wait to just get everything going, reach out to new people, and just see what else is out there in the CUNY system. And I really wanted to thank you for everything.
Of course. Well, I am super excited for you, and I'm super excited to watch the show now as a viewer. I can't wait. Yeah.
Oh my God, so exciting.
So exciting.
And that is a wrap on the first episode of Season 3 of CUNY Uncut. Thank you all for tuning in, and make sure to check out CUNY Uncut on all social media platforms. And I am your new host, David Horn. We'll see you all next time. Bye.